When I was a child, I adored Scooby-Doo. The hilarious antics, fantastic characters, and warm friendships stuck with me throughout my childhood, even as I stumbled through my 20s, turning into a version of Shaggy myself, just without the likability. I still found joy in revisiting Scooby-Doo episodes. Sure, maybe the films weren't all hits, but the spirit was still there. Eventually, I had kids of my own, and found myself re-watching the original series with them. It was a beautiful moment, sharing something I loved while seeing my children fall in love with the same characters. So it is with great sadness that I report the cancellation of HBO's Velma. Not because it deserved more airtime, but because it deserved to be cancelled so much sooner. How this mean-spirited, woefully misguided show that hated its fan base survived 2 whole series is a question for the ages, one even the Mystery Machine Gang would struggle to solve. Velma took the beloved, smart, resourceful nerd we all loved and turned her into a biting, sarcastic, thoroughly unlikable individual. And if that wasn't enough of a personality overhaul, for absolutely no reason, they made her a lesbian and Indian. The way it was handled felt like the showrunners were ticking boxes without an ounce of care on how the changes might add to Velma's character. They turned her from a quirky, intelligent hero into a mean-spirited version of herself, constantly throwing out cutting remarks that drained any joy from the series. They removed everything that was joyous about the original Scooby-Doo and said, "Oh, you like this? Well, it's too bad, we're in charge now, so suck it up." Velma, created by the Mindy Project creator, a show not known for its humour despite allegedly being a comedy, seemed to exist solely to make the Mindy Project look good by comparison. Watching Velma was like being subjected to a 20-minute train wreck. You get halfway through and wonder how much track was left before you crashed into a wall. But it just kept going, unrelenting, episode after episode. And what a cruel reimagining of the gang we were treated to. Fred, bless him, was reduced to a privileged man-child who was bullied relentlessly, mostly because, well, let's not tiptoe around this, it's because he was white. That was Fred's crime. He spent this series as a walking punchline, subjected to endless humiliation for no apparent reason other than it was trendy to do so. The writers may have been aiming for satire, but instead, they handed us a clumsy, ugly mess. Then there was Shaggy, Norville, whose use of his proper name was the least of his problems. They stripped Shaggy of everything that made him Shaggy. Gone was the laid-back, goofy charm. In its place, an awkward character who felt more like someone having an identity crisis than the fun-loving sidekick we all grew up with. And worst of all, no Scooby-Doo. That's right, the one character this whole franchise revolves around was simply missing. Because why would we want to watch Scooby-Doo in a show about the Scooby-Doo gang? No, apparently we needed to watch Velma be aggressively unpleasant, smug, and meta instead. Even Scrappy Doo, yes, Scrappy Doo, somehow ended up as the most likable character by the end. This is the same Scrappy Doo who has been reviled for years and is referred to as a failed military experiment with a disturbing habit of biting people's genitals. Yes, thank you, Oscar Wilde. If Scrappy Doo, and in particular this Scrappy Doo, was the best thing about your show, you've clearly been hitting the head with a shovel too many times and far too hard. The show was a cynical exercise in how to drain all joy from a beloved show and call it edgy. The characters were cruel, the humour, what little there was flat, and the violence was jarring. And just to rub salt into the wound, they made Velma the worst version of herself possible. Someone we'd all happily lock in a room with the ghost of Old Man Jenkins and never let out. But now, finally, after 2 series of this disaster, HBO has finally dusted off their trusty shotgun and put Velma out of its misery. There's relief in knowing that no one has to sit through another episode of this cynical, soulless reboot. How it survived beyond the first suggestion of its premise is beyond anyone. It's astonishing that Velma made it through any stage of production without someone stepping in and saying, "Oh God, no, please make it stop," but somehow it kept moving forward. Fans of the original Scooby-Doo will not mourn Velma's passing. In fact, the world seems ready to pretend this fever dream never existed. It will go down in history as a case study in how to take a beloved franchise, drag it through a hedge of bad ideas, set it on fire, and then innocently ask, why doesn't anyone like this? Velma is survived by its superior ancestor, Scooby-Doo, which will continue solving actual mystery, keeping its humour and heart intact. Rest in pieces, Velma. You won't be missed, but we'll always wonder how many people got fired for allowing this trash can fire to burn for so long.